that our world has the tribulation that it does. Look at the way we're teaching our teenagers. Look at the way that our lawmakers are changing our laws and the things that they say we believe in. Some of that junk I don't even believe in. I don't even know what they're doing. We have a lot of tribulation in our world. Look at the world when Jesus walked. In Matthew chapter 10, they called him Beelzebub. They're going to call him that. They're going to call us that. If they're going to persecute him, they're going to persecute me. Bring it on. It's given to us to suffer for his sake as well as to believe in his name. The bush also shows that we are preserved people. The bush was burning, but it was not consumed. God's children have always been burned by war, by tribulation, sin, sickness, pain, but never destroyed. The same kind of preservation can be found in stories like Daniel in the lion's den, the 3 Hebrew children, Jonah in the whale, but not being digested. God preserves his people for a reason. Jesus taught that we are protected by him in every attack of the devil. Everything that the devil throws against us, we are preserved. Why would he allow the devil to take what he has created and to destroy it? We're protected by him even sometimes when we don't see it, when we don't feel it, and when we don't understand it. We are protected people. God's not going to let us be destroyed. Look at Israel. During the centuries, we can see how the hand of God has led them out and led them on. Without a king, they've been preserved on the one hand and protected on the other. If God's protecting and supplying every need for the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, how much more is he going to give to us, his creation, the one that he breathed life into? He's going to protect all of us. I said all of this to bring us to our next point. Moses said in verse 3, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. So many times in our lives, we see how God is working. We see his provision, we see his protection, and his preservation. But do we ever look to see where it comes from? Why it came from him? Sometimes as we're going through our world, so many times we see something, we go, oh wow, I was lucky. I was lucky I wasn't in that car accident. I was lucky that I was recognized for this, or I saw that. It's not luck. The teens are going to be leaving in a couple really short weeks, headed to camp. We're going on the backside of the mountain because the desert's just too hot. No, I'm not going to the desert. We're going seeking God. We're going to where cell phones don't work. We're not taking a radio. There's no TV. Mom and Dad's not there. There's no dishes for us to wash. We are leaving our business here. We're getting away from everything. We're getting away from our daily lives so that we can focus on God. We are going seeking the still small voice. This world is much too busy, and very few of us are so unwilling to go seeking God or to even hear his voice. As the choir sang this morning, Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. Break me, mold me, fill me, and use me. Come and feed us. Teach us of Jesus, his will, his way, because we need a fresh anointing. That's getting on the backside of the desert. That's crawling that mountain. That's getting into the throne room and finding God. When was the last time you saw a burning bush? When was the last time you looked for one? I used to mention to the youth group the God moments that I would see as I went through my week And one of the kids asked me one time, how come you see all these God moments? It's because I look for them. I look to see what God is doing in my life, how He's doing it and why He's doing it. I look to see what God is doing in your life. There's so many amazing things out there in this world that if you're looking for a God moment, you can see that He placed that bird right there for that exact reason, at that exact moment, just for you. He'll put up a rainbow. Sometimes you can just be sitting on a creek bank and hear the gurgle of water, and that's just for you. That might be God's voice speaking to you. I look into the Little Sprouts class or the Mighty Oaks class, the teenagers class. You know what I see? Little burning bushes. Little children on fire for Christ. Seeking Him and finding Him in their childlike ways. These children are moving the world. I don't care how old they are. I don't care how young they are. They are moving the world. Little Emma says some of the greatest things. Sometimes she speaks the greatest truth out of the mouths of babes. Sometimes I got to look at my own life. Did I let my bush burn out? Am I on fire like that? Sometimes I get so busy working for Christ that I'm no longer focusing on Christ. I'm not seeking Him, I'm not listening to Him, and maybe I'm not even looking for Him because I'm too busy doing His work. What I think is His work. Do you know what His work is? His work is working in my heart, working in your heart. And it's that blessing when we get to intermingle those workings and work together. I also want to look to see that Moses stopped to see what was going on. He was seeking to understand. He wanted to stop and look at this bush and figure out why it wasn't reduced to ashes. Usually when we light something on fire, it is consumed and it goes away, never to be seen again. When we take just a few moments to open up our Bibles and to read His Word, when we stop to speak with God, thank Him for the sunrise that He just showed us, or to ask Him, how should I handle this situation? How should I go about this? What do you want me to do? When we stop to inquire about God, He's more than delighted to show Himself to us, to reveal Himself to us. And God's going to do that. He will reveal Himself to you. He's going to make His path absolutely clearly known. We just have to have the faith and the obedience to stop and listen. If Christ is calling you out, listen to Him. If you can hear Him, obey Him. And finally, in verse 6, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Jacob. I just paraphrase that. These are great men. These are heroes in the Bible. These are men that we look to for inspiration and for help and for guidance. Were they flawed? Absolutely. Did they persevere? Yes. They were protected. God is telling us here that He's the God of our fathers. And not just their fathers. He's the God of all His people, all of His creation, through all generations. He is to be honored and glorified by all generations. He works in all generations. He loves all generations. He's never left or abandoned any of us, ever. Moses hid his face, but not his heart and his ears. He listened, he communed, and he obeyed. If we don't step back into the quiet, we're going to miss His directions and His blessings. We need to seek him out. Christ is looking for longing hearts. Hearts that are looking and longing for him. God is watching us to see if we are truly interested in the things that he desires for us. He wants to give us great things, mighty things, powerful things. Do you want that? Do you want to be involved in something that can bring thousands of teenagers to Christ? That would be great. Do you want to be involved in something that brings one teenager to Christ? Absolutely. It's not the outward life that appeals to him. It's the inward heart. It's the promptings, the yearnings, and the longing of our soul to be with him. 1 Samuel says, man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Man sees the things as they appear. God sees it as they really are. Is God finding in you that spirit that yearns after him? The spirit that will turn aside to look and to see why the bush is not burnt. I know that we're taking the teens up on the mountain to fellowship with God, to seek him, to ask for his guidance and his salvation and his knowledge. But for those that are staying behind, I challenge you to put your business aside for just a few moments. Seek God. Come back into that relationship that you and he both desire for your life. I challenge you to step into the backside of the desert. Climb that mountain because it's well worth it. Listen for God's voice. If God is screaming into your life, you need to think about where you've been because you haven't been listening to him. Doesn't matter if you're 2 or 200 years old. God is still placing that burning bush in front of you. And you need to keep looking for it. I pray that you take this challenge this morning, go home with God. Recognize his voice because he is calling out to all of us. Where your feet are standing is holy ground. Where your feet are standing in an hour from now is holy ground. Where you're at tomorrow is holy ground. If you know Christ and Christ is in your heart and you know God and you have that relationship with him and you are allowing God to move, wherever your feet are is holy ground. He created it just for you. God is speaking. Are you ready to listen to him? Pastor, if you'll go ahead and come forward. It was hard to develop this message this morning because it took an in-depth look into my life. It made me look and challenge myself, my heart, to see if what I was living, what I was putting out in front of my non-Christian friends is what I really truly believe. I wish you could have been in the discipleship class this morning because Pastor walked all over it. It's well and good to come to church, to hear a message. It's well and good to be here on Sunday. But if you're not living it through the week, if you're not living it in your homes in front of your children, with your children, if you're not taking it to your friends, to your workplace, you're not living it. And I challenge you this week to live your faith, walk with God, and listen to his voice.
Amen. Let's stand together for prayer. Brother Sherling's brought a great message today. Are you living out your faith in front of those that are in your homes? This is something he just asked us. We're going to sing in just a moment. It's your opportunity to respond to the message this morning.